Affairs commentator Doug Herbert is with me. Doug, there's so many different things to talk about, aren't there? But let's talk about Donald Trump, first of all, and what he had to say, even blaming at one point Ukraine for the war.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a trick or a trap question there, Stuart. So let me first back up and give the context, just a tiny bit. Look, this is the latest shiny rhetorical object to come out of Donald Trump's mouth, and it works because here we are. Everyone is in now analyzing Trump's rhetoric mode. What did he mean? What is going to happen now? We're all concentrated, navel-gazing at his every utterance. I just want to preface my answer to your question by saying Trump has no strategy for Ukraine. He doesn't think on a deep analytical geopolitical level. His strategy is about himself. What does he want? He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. I bang on about this because this is what he wants. He's still resentful that Obama got it years back. He thinks unjustly. He wants that prize. How do you get from A to B, the prize? You get there by speeding up this process, i.e. the U.S.-Russia talks, ending the war quickly, and he says he's the only man who can do it. Now we can listen to sort of take those remarks that we just heard in context. Yeah, he's blaming, falsely accusing Ukraine of starting the war. Factually, Ukraine was unprovoked. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. I find it actually archly ironic that I even have to sit here saying these things on set, wasting time talking about it. But an unprovoked war of aggression. Why didn't Zelensky end the war earlier? Because he was basically defending his country against a brutal territorial expansionist land grab by his northern neighbor, Russia. That's why he didn't. Why have there not been elections in Ukraine? Because Ukraine is under martial law. Why? Because it's fighting a war against a neighbor that launched a war of aggression. These all have very simple answers here, but that's besides the point. Trump is basically throwing out there what he needs to throw out there in order to make us all sit here and talk about it. He also is very much, one thing we can safely say, little love lost between Trump and Zelensky. He still remembers his first term when Zelensky was sort of at the center of an impeachment scandal with Trump because Zelensky didn't investigate Joe Biden at Trump's request. Trump was subsequently impeached. Trump really likes Vladimir Putin, really admires him. Doesn't mean he's going to do all of his bidding just at a snap of the fingers. No, but he is falling right now hook, line, and sinker for Putin's false narratives and his propaganda line. He is very susceptible when it's about himself and his own ego, and Putin's narrative plays into his own.
And what does this mean for Volodymyr Zelensky? A little shell-shocked?
Shell-shocked is, almost putting it mildly, Stuart. Zelensky is dazed and confused, but still on his feet. Look, Ukraine continues to come under brutal attacks, drone attacks by the day, often aiming at, again, even though Russia vehemently denies it all the time, what is considered deemed civilian infrastructures. What is Zelensky essentially saying? He is very lucid about Vladimir Putin having now been in a posture of having to fend off Russia's war of aggression for the past 3 years. I want you to see what he told a German newspaper. This was his quote about what he thinks Putin's intentions are. Can we bring that up on the screen? Do we have it there somewhere? Yes, we do. Of course, Russia has a hashtag in there. Russia wants to get rid of me, maybe not physically any longer like they did at the beginning of the war, but politically. And that's absolutely understandable, as I'm a very uncomfortable person. Uncomfortable for Putin, Volodymyr Zelensky. Factually correct. Russia has, according to Ukrainian intelligence, even according to some outside Russian observers, has tried to assassinate Zelensky multiple times. Zelensky is obviously an obstacle in Putin's path. He was supposed to be out of there within the first 3 days. He wasn't. He did the unthinkable. He and his country put up resistance to Putin. They were supposed to welcome his soldiers and his military with open arms. Thank you for liberating us from these Nazis, Russian army. That didn't happen. Zelensky's still there. Zelensky's been touring the world. Zelensky's become a cult hero to much of the West for defending his country in a Churchillian-type style. Zelensky is someone that Putin can't stomach, but he's had to deal with him day after day after day. Zelensky's been clear in these latest rounds. No negotiations between U.S. and Russia will be acceptable to Ukraine if it's about Ukraine behind Ukraine's back.
Let's talk finally, Doug, about the European leaders, sort of just watching this, really. Another meeting here in Paris of different European leaders to those we saw on Monday.
Yeah, this is the meeting of the uninvited. And what I mean by that, Stuart, is we were talking about back on Monday. It seems like a year ago already, right? But we had the meeting here in Paris. It was a small core of like-minded, mostly like-minded, although they turned out not to be as like-minded as people might have expected, to talk about how to forge a response to Trump's turning their back and dumping Europe and leaving Kiev in the lurch. That was a small meeting. France, Italy, Poland, Spain, UK were all there. This is going to draw in the Baltic states. A lot of states were very upset that they weren't invited to that meeting. And there have been a lot of calls in Europe, not just at the NATO level, but at the EU level, have all 27 get together. Yeah, even if there's some dissent, we need to all get together and try to forge a unified voice. So today you're going to have the Baltic states, Czech Republic, Greece, Finland. I wrote it down because I don't have a photographic memory. Romania, Sweden, Belgium, Canada, and Norway. Okay, obviously non-EU members there. They're all going to be there to try to continue to forge a response. I'll be clear, in France, they're saying this morning that Macron is blowing hot and cold on the peacekeep, on the idea of troops. Macron has now said, he's been clear, he told a regional French newspaper, there are not going to be any French combat troops, as I see it, at least in the near medium term, in Ukraine. He does see potentially a role for peacekeeping troops, perhaps peacekeeping troops under a UN-type mandate in Ukraine. This is something perhaps that they're going to be sort of talking about, ways to get those security guarantees in the form of some European force, a European military backbone in there, but not in a belligerent combat role. I think that's something most European leaders right now would be on the same page with.
Doug, thanks so much. Doug Herbert, our international affairs commentator here on France 24.